p.m. and we're being held virtually today. I'm John Mawhinney, the chair. And now, would the members please introduce themselves and say present so that we know you're here, but alphabetically, and start with Mr. Jacobs. Pat.
Pat Jacobs, present.
Good. Okay. Val?
Val Little, present.
Dan? Nothing. Dan's fallen off the shore, I think. Or you may be
present.
Oh, there he is.
Good. Tim?
Tim Tomier, present.
We have a quorum, so we're ready to go, I guess. ADWR staff, why don't you tell us who you are and how you're going to help us?
Hi everyone, this is Aina Benenson, Active Management Area Director.
Melissa Sykes, Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator. Kennedy Shepard, GUAC Coordinator.
Is that it?
And that's it, yes, from ADWR.
All right. How about then, let's see. Kennedy Shepard's going on. Agenda item number 2, tell us all about the webinar logistics. Kennedy, you there?
Yep, I'm here. So just a few stuff before we get started that I want to go over. First, we ask that everybody mute their phones to reduce audio feedback when they aren't speaking. Members, since you will be asking questions and speaking much more frequently, you are more than welcome to stay unmuted. Now, if you have any questions or comments pertaining to a specific presentation, please feel free to write that question in the chat box, and we will get to those during our call to public. Also, during the call to public, you do have a chance to unmute yourself and speak to the council if you would like to. Finally, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, you can either message Teresa, or you can contact our help desk, which that contact information can be found at the bottom of the slide. They know we're having this meeting and are more than willing to help. Also, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube page probably by next week. And also anything you put in the chat will be recorded as well. And that is all I have.
How about, this is John Mawhinney. Kennedy, would you tell us quickly how to chat?
Oh, how to chat? If you put your cursor over the presentation, you'll see the little bubbles at the bottom.
Yes.
You'll see like a little chat. It's like a circle with a little indent on the left-hand side.
Yeah, we call that Larry.
And you'll see the chat.
Okay. And when you hit that, you open up a box that comes up on the right, and then you can type your question in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can change if you want that message to be sent to everybody or someone individually who's in the meeting.
Okay, very well.
All right.
Okay, and for GUAC members, what we're going to do today is concentrate a lot of work, I guess, trying to do the presentations. And the questions probably ought not to be so much as to the efficacy and wisdom and where you think the presentation ought to be, because that's going to be held tomorrow. So what we want today is any questions as they apply to the actual program itself, how it would work, who would do it, et cetera, et cetera. So limit your, your questions about how good it would be, et cetera, and what priority it should be until tomorrow. If that's okay with everybody. And let's see, where are we then? Melissa and INAV, and now we're ready to go for the first presenter from Arizona Water Company.
So, Mr. Chair, we have a little bit of introduction, if you don't mind. It's going to take us a couple of minutes, and then we'll dive right into the presentation.
Sure.
Excellent. So, just to give everybody background, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know about these grant and applications, but we just want to give everybody background and a little more information on what's going to happen today and tomorrow. So this meeting is focused on the application submitted towards the groundwater conservation grant. You probably all recall that this grant is for the sum of $2 million, and it was appropriated by the legislators in January 2019 as part of the drought contingency planning agreements. And that part was to support groundwater conservation projects in the active management areas. The grant money is divided among the 5 active management areas on a per capita basis, with a minimum amount of $150,000 for active management areas with smaller population. Tucson AMA was allocated $305,000. The grant is administered by the Water Management Assistance Program, but grant monies are separated from the Water Management Assistance Program monies that are generated from the groundwater withdrawal fee, so just a little different. So how would that meeting be held? So it will span over the 2 days, so Monday and Wednesday. During the first day, which is today, we'll hear presentations about the 9 proposed projects that were submitted towards this grant within the Tucson active management areas. Just so you'll know, there was additional application that was submitted. However, it didn't meet the minimum funding criteria and it was disqualified. The list of proposed projects and schedule of the presentations is detailed on the second page of the agenda. You all should have received the email this morning from Kennedy with slight changes to the schedule, so you can all refer to that for the timing. The second day, which will be Wednesday, GUAC members will discuss and prioritize the projects according to the strength of the applications, groundwater to be conserved, the impact of the project, cost effectiveness, innovative qualities of the project, as well as the AMA needs and the funding available. And this then prioritized list will be given to ADWR director to make the final decision on the funding distribution. So again, this was a very brief overview of what we are to expect during those 2 days, and Melissa will go over the specific details of today's meeting and presentation.
Thank you, Enos, Mr. Chair, and members of the council. As you've seen in the very busy agenda, we have a lot to cover during this meeting. To make the transitions faster, we combined all the presentations together, and I will be advancing the slides as the applicants present. Each applicant will have 10 minutes to present their project, followed by a 5-minute Q&A. We will also take a short break at 2:15 for 15 minutes. In between each presentation, we have a couple extra minutes in case we fall behind our schedule. But due to the large number of presentations, we need to stick to the schedule, and we ask presenters to please remain within the time assigned to you. I will let you know when you have 1 minute left by putting this sign in front of the camera. If you surpass 10 minutes allotted for your presentation, we will ask you to stop presenting and we'll have to move on to answering questions. And at the end of the Q&A section, even if it doesn't go or fill the 5 minutes, we'll go right on to the next presentation. Presenters were asked to attend the meeting on Wednesday as well in case the GUAC members have any additional questions during the application discussion. GUAC members were asked to assess each application, and members can adjust the assessments based on the presentations and the following Q&A. And we ask that all members email me their final application assessment sheets by tomorrow morning. We also ask that after the meeting today, or on Tuesday morning, members will email me their prioritized list of projects going from 1 to 9 according to the criteria we mentioned earlier. The amount of groundwater to be conserved, the impact, the cost effectiveness, and innovative qualities of the project, the AMA needs, and any other criteria that you may deem relevant. We will also use the initial rankings to start our discussion on Wednesday. GUAC members have also submitted a conflict of interest form specifying whether they have a conflict of interest with one or more of the applications. Members with such a conflict will not be able to discuss or ask questions regarding that project. So before we begin the presentation, I'll be happy to take any questions.
So just to be clear, after the meeting tonight and before Wednesday, you need to get from us a prioritized list of the projects as we assess them individually, and also a portion of the questionnaire, or the what do you call that form you sent us with all of the various
evaluation sheets.
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay.
So revised evaluation sheets and the prioritized list of projects.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Chairman, Pat Jacobs.
Go, Pat.
Can they go back over the disqualification? I think I understood what was said, but I'd like to hear it again.
Hey, you disqualified somebody in the applications. Originally there were 10, now there's 9. How did you disqualify?
Yes, so Arizona Water Company had submitted a project called ESRI ArcGIS Field Rollout, and the minimum funding amount for the Tucson AMA was $25,000, and their project they had applied for was $11,000, so that was disqualified.
Okay, Pat? Pat?
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Pat Jacobs.
All right. Okay, Ineb, I think are we at the point where we're ready to present?
I believe we are. We can start with the first presentation.
Okay.
So we have Arizona Water Company, AMR meter replacement project.
Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Robert Romo with Arizona Water Company. I'm the superintendent here for the Falcon Valley Water System. How are you all doing?
Don't ask big questions like that to screw us all up.
All right, great. Well, I'll dive right in. And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee for having me, allowing me to present in front of you. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about an AMR project that we would like to start here in our Falcon Valley subdivision and go over a brief scenario that we've already taken place. Falcon Valley, a brief on that, we serve Saddlebrook, Oracle, San Manuel, and Winkleman. Combined, we have over 2,600 water services, but the focus of the AMR technology and this presentation will solely be in the Saddlebrook area, which is within the Tucson AMA. And there's currently just under 1,200 services in Saddlebrook Ranch, and it's continuing to grow. Briefly, the meter readers cover roughly 44 miles within the system, and we deal with a lot of remote areas, dense vegetation, and meter readings a daily struggle. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In 2014, the company initiated a AMR pilot program in Pinal Valley in our Tierra Grande system. That system was really perfect for us. It allowed us to not only try the technology, but at the same time, we have a meter shop that's located in Coolidge, Arizona, not too far away from there. And so we were able to do a good test run on meters. We installed 389 meters, 70 of them being Census, 160 Neptune, and 159 Badgers. And we're all outfitted with the Itron electronic radio transmitters. And it wasn't just to try the AMR technology, but it was actually to help identify the best meter that would give us the best performance. And traditionally, we have been using Census for quite some time. And as you'll see on the next slide, the meters did really outperform the Badger and the Neptune. With this program, what we did notice is that not only did the AMR help us read meters more efficiently and get that data, but at the same time with our tiered water weight system that had been implemented, we saved over 20 acre-feet of water. Our pumping volume significantly went down over this test period. And just real quick on this slide, you'll see, especially with the low flow at 0.25 gallons per minute, the Census meter, it was picking up 79% of the read. And we've really, our customer contact, because of this meter replacement that we put in has been really positive, and it's actually helped them identify leaks quicker and allow them to fix things that normally would have gone by and wasted quite a bit of water. Next slide, please. So here's that graph right here that kind of shows before the meters were installed, it shows how much we were pumping. And then after we installed the meters and with the tiered rate system, how much we started pumping, how less we started pumping. And we've just really liked this graph. It's significant. It really shows what a good meter change-out program will do. And it's not just a meter change-out program. It's identifying the right meter to put into application. Next slide, please. Again, here's our meter shop. We're very fortunate to own our own. It's operates and it's fully staffed. It's in Coolidge, Arizona, and these guys that are in there, they're top notch, and they're really good at what they do, and they take this serious. They have a passion for this. Next slide. So the company has already invested in upgrading the current meter reading platform, where we have new Census handheld meter reading devices that we're putting out in the fields right now. We have the Census auto read software that we purchased, smart point transmitters, meters with electronic registers, and right now within the Tierra Grande, we're still doing the walk and drive-by vehicle transmitter units. And we're hoping to roll that out to Saddlebrook Ranch soon. Next slide, please. So the company will focus on replacing direct read registers with electronic registers and Census smart points. We've already got a good meter change-out program in place right now with the Census. So in order to make this the most cost-effective way, we'll just be replacing the register and leaving the meter in place. That's just the best way for us to do it right now. And then as we go on and move into the future, we'll start replacing the whole meter with the whole setup in itself. One quick thing is just kind of going off of the math and whatnot. We're looking at saving about, just in Saddlebrook Ranch, about 65 acre feet a year. In over 4 years, that'd be about roughly 260 acre feet. Right now, we pump around 648 acre feet of water out of 2 wells within the Saddlebrook Ranch community. Next slide. Here's kind of a breakdown of how we would spend the money if we were to move forward with this. And again, this is all not only just in a help to help with the water usage and make a significant impact, but also build eventually towards going full AMR and then bringing in the technology to allow customers within the Saddlebrook Ranch community to access their information daily and get faster notices regarding high water usages or billing information that would really help them manage their water use in a more efficient manner. Next slide. So we're hoping that this brief PowerPoint and my little spiel to you here will kind of show that with this Tierra Grande AMR project, we really did see a drop in the production of our wells, a noticeable drop. And we know with the implementation of these census meters that are picking up the low flow and even after 1 million gallons of use, as the previous slides show, are still working at 79% at 0.25 gallons per minute, that we're going to be able to help manage leaks on the customer side more efficiently and quicker. And with this software that we're purchasing as well, we'll be able to help us get better analytics out of what we're doing and delivering. And that's all I have right there. Hopefully I didn't get too close to the 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, questions? How about Pat? You're first in line. Got anything? If not,
It takes a moment, Patrick. Took me a moment to unmute. No questions.
Val?
Would you say again, Robert, how many acre feet you think that this project at $52,000 will, how many acre feet you plan to save?
A year, 65 feet.
65 acre feet a year, and then you gave a 4-year figure?
260.
And why would you use 4 years instead of the life of the meter?
Over the grant period, the 4-year period of the
I
grant.
got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Dan?
That was the question I had. I just wanted to clarify if it was 65 acre foot in the first year.
And Tim?
No questions.
Well, let's see. Clearly, we had a discussion earlier about the requirement that the expenditures be limited to either the AMA or in the best interest of the AMA. So this is all going to be done in the Saddlebrook, which is within the Tucson AMA. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, members committee, that is correct. It's all going to be within the Tucson area, which is located within the Saddlebrook Ranch, which Saddlebrook Ranch is located within.
Yeah. Is this dependent upon the approval of the grant for the other portion of it in the Phoenix AMA, or is this independent standing on its own?
Independent standing on its own, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And on my executive summary, I think it is something, it talks about the WMAP cost share is $11,004.42. In another place, it's 53. Where's the 11,000 come from, or am I reading that wrong?
Mr. Chairman, this is Melinda Whittington, also of Arizona Water Company. The 11,000 you're seeing is the ESRI proposal that was disqualified for this AMA.
Okay, somehow I've got it connected to the meter proposal. Okay, so this one clearly is for what, 50? What's the number?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's $53,702.
Okay, I guess there's no further questions. Then we're ready for number 2, unless somebody's got something up. Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Lee Hetrick. You guys hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Should I start?
You should.
Okay, very good. I just want to say hello and greetings to Mr. Winnie and the committee. I want to thank you for my opportunity to give this presentation. This is the ADWR Water Management Assistance Program Groundwater Conservation Grant presentation for leak detection equipment replacement. Next slide, please. Thank you. Arizona Water is requesting a grant to purchase new leak detection equipment to replace its current equipment, which has reached the end of its useful life. As part of the 3rd and 4th management plans for AMAs in Arizona, a comprehensive leak detection program is listed in Category 4 of Best Management Practices for Physical System Evaluation and Improvement. Arizona Water Company has consistently been working to expand the effectiveness of its leak detection programs, not only in the AMAs, but across all of its systems in Arizona. This grant will allow the company to purchase new sets of equipment for the Tucson AMA systems. The equipment sets consist of correlators, loggers, and ground microphones. Next slide, please. Arizona Water Company operates 22 water systems in the state of Arizona and serves a population of approximately 250,000. In the Tucson active management area, the company has one water system, which is primarily the Robeson community of Saddlebrook Ranch. However, the Falcon Valley system also serves the community of Oracle, which is just outside of the AMA. Next slide, please. The leaks I'm talking about are leaks that don't surface. You won't see any evidence of them on the surface, but they're out there and they're leaking. So when I say leaks, that's what I'm describing. And in a water distribution system that has never used leak detection equipment, the water loss can easily exceed 30% of the water pumped from its production wells in some systems. The water loss for each non-surfacing leak will increase with time, and new leaks from aging pipelines occur continually. Typical non-surfacing water leaks range in size from 1/2 gallon per minute to 20 gallons per minute. To grasp the amount of water lost by these leaks, consider that a small leak of just 1/2 gallon per minute will lose 260,000 gallons per year. A 10-gallon per minute leak is equal to 5,265,000 gallons or 16 acre-feet of lost water in a year. Next slide, please. Let me check this slide. Okay. With water resources being increasingly stressed due to climate change and growing populations, water utilities must become water efficient throughout the entire supply process. By employing improved methods of water loss control, water utilities have the potential to reduce the large volumes of groundwater that are lost to leakage. Water loss control is an increasingly important field of practice that is being heavily promoted within the drinking water utility industry. Next slide, please. Not all water leakage on underground mains and service lines finds its way to the surface. Large quantities of water are lost each day from leaks that are not detected because the lost water does not surface. This slide is a visualization of the sound that an underground leak makes when using leak detection equipment in the field. Next slide, please. Locating and repairing the non-surfacing water leaks in a distribution system is vitally important conservation endeavor. Identifying non-surfacing water leaks is very challenging and requires a considerable number of experienced staff, plus the use of advanced leak detection equipment. Arizona Water Company has a proven track record of finding non-surfacing leaks using portable correlators, loggers, and geophones to progress across the entire distribution system to search for pipeline leaks. The equipment is attached to contact points along the way, such as curb stop valves, mainline valves, and fire hydrants. In any water distribution system, this is a daunting task because the entire distribution system must be covered from beginning to end over and over. In the case of the Falcon Valley system, there are 76 miles of main and service lines. So the process can take many months or even exceed a year's time, and then it must be repeated. To identify non-surfacing leaks, modern equipment must be used. Next slide, please. Our equipment replacement project for the Tucson AMA includes a variety of equipment for each of the systems inside the AMA. The total project cost is $97,936, and Arizona Water Company is requesting the grant cost share be $50,468. Next slide, please. Arizona Water Company reports its well production and conservation efforts annually for each of its systems. The lost and unaccounted for water is also reported. It will be clear to see pre-project implementation and post-project implementation groundwater savings based on repaired or replaced pipe. While it's unrealistic to anticipate that unaccounted for water loss will be 0%, it is very realistic to anticipate a 2% to 3% reduction in unaccounted for lost water. The example below, see that graph? The example of groundwater savings using a conservative 2% savings in the chart below shows that the company can plan to save 2,060 acre-feet over a 4-year term. While the Tucson volume was focused groundwater savings in the Saddlebrook Ranch area, we anticipate that the interconnected community of Oracle will also benefit. Demand in the Saddlebrook Ranch area was 644 acre-feet in 2019. We anticipate reducing groundwater pumping by at least 13 acre-feet per year while the community continues to grow. Next slide, please. As an example of the effectiveness of new leak finding equipment, the Apache Junction system implemented one new ecologic leak finder RT correlator set in 2016 and found that the equipment helped it reduce its loss and unaccounted water to 6.8% in 2017, which was down from 10.64% in 2014. Data in the application shows that with the implementation of new leak detection equipment, the Apache Junction system reduced groundwater pumping by 600 acre-feet in 2 years. We anticipate a similar percentage measure for the Falcon Valley system. So we're excited to move forward with our project, and we hope that the Groundwater User Advisory Committee will recommend it to the Director of Water Resources to receive the Water Management Assistance Program Groundwater Conservation Grant. Any questions?
Pat, let's start with you.
No questions. Thank you. Pat Jacobs.
Val?
Is the Falcon Valley system reported separately to ADWR, or is it embedded within a larger report?
Go ahead, Melinda.
Hi, it's Melinda Whittington again from Arizona Water Company. Yes, we do record each system independently based on its 58 number. It's service area right.
Thank you, Melinda. And to that point, what's your current lost and unaccounted for number for that system?
It's running about 8.6% right now.
And that would mean that you would expect this proposal, if it were funded, to reduce it to what?
Probably about 6%. That's what we're hoping for conservatively.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan?
I have no questions.
Jim?
No questions.
Okay, this is all what I call infrastructure, nothing beyond the residential meter leaks, right?
Yes, this is, we do find leaks on the customer side of the meter with this equipment. It's routine to detect leaks and notify the customers. The contact points will pick up leaks, anything in between the contact points. So if it's a service connection and also the line to the customer's house, it can detect leaks.
Okay. No further questions. See you tomorrow. All right. Who's next then?
Tucson Water in the city.
Averill Valley.
We have Sal Madrid with Averill Water.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Sal Madrid. I'm with Averill Water. I'm the operations superintendent. I don't know if you guys we're a small. Go ahead and next slide. We're Averill Water. We're a small community with approximately 2,600 connections, all on 1 acre or larger lots. We are not-for-profit water provider located in Averill Valley, west of the Tucson Mountains and adjacent to the Saguaro National Park West. Our service area is about 12.4 acre miles. It's all located within the unincorporated Pima County in the small community of Picture Rocks, which lies within the Tucson AMA. All of our water is pumped from 3 wells within our service areas from the Averill Valley Aquifer. Next. There's a small map of our location of our service areas of what we service. We have 6 zones in our area just because of the terrain. So just gives you a small detail map. Next. Leaks. Since we are an old water facility, we have a lot of leaks. They come in various sizes of all hours of the day. Some are quick fix and others that are caught immediately, while others go on for hours, days, and even months. Very often when a customer has a leak, they do not realize it until we contact them and let them know they had unusual high usage after we have completed our meter reads and go through our meter read reports. As we only read meters monthly, by the time we notify the customers, it is possible that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of gallons of groundwater has been used. Next. Leaks are becoming an increasingly large problem within our service area, such as infrastructure aging. We feel that leaks are inevitable, but the sooner we catch them, the more groundwater we can save. Our goal is to help provide our customers with a more efficient means to catch these costly leaks. Next. Our current data, where leaks in the AWC's infrastructures are much harder to estimate. Our customers' leaks are easier to detect because their water is metered, and we can look at the average usage and get a really good estimate of the loss. When the MXU replacement project is intended, we will start reading route consistently every other week to begin with monitoring excessive usage. This will be a benefit to all our water users, which currently consist of a population of about 6,700. We have leaks information documented below for our customers for the last 3 years. We pump approximately 811 acre feet of water a year and have a customer loss of approximately 13 acre feet, which anticipate that could be cut in half when we intensify this program. So what we see what's going on in on the customer side of what's going on, but what's really happening out in our initial system, since it is an aging system, that's a little harder to get an average. We do keep track of everything else that with leaks and other any other issues that we have out there in the system. So next. The goal of this project. Although Averill Water Co-op is a small provider compared to a large municipality within the Tucson active management area, we work hard to address water conservation with our customers at annual meetings, community events, and even at the local school to increase awareness and keep our members up to date and our state goals to conserve water and achieve safety yield. We have 800 singles and double MXUs to upgrade, 1,191 total in order to complete this project. Next. Our goal of the MXU replacement project is to save groundwater by educating providing the tools to our customers to become proactive in water conservation. Replacing our old meter transceivers units with the new units will make our meters reading faster, allowing us to read bi-weekly to catch leaks before they get too big. This also is a huge step towards our overall goal, which would be to have the entire system on an advanced metering infrastructure, the AMI system. We currently read meters once a month and are on the radio read system. We have older MXUs that require a stronger signal to pick up data, and therefore, when our techs read, they must spend more time driving close to these locations in order to get these reads. If we replace those old MXUs with new ones, we will have a stronger signal. This will enable us to get more data more frequently, thereby catching increasing usage for customers sooner and hopefully cutting down on costly leaks for the customers and conserving precious groundwater. Next. Once we get the MXUs replaced and this project underway, AWC will continue to look for avenues to expand the program to include an advanced metering infrastructure system, which would allow us to get reads directly from the MXU via 2 antennas within our service area that sends data directly to our main office. At that point, the system would alert us of high usage immediately. We would also be able to expand leak detection sensors within our infrastructure that would immediately alert us of high and low pressures and possible leaks. That is a way off, but currently sometimes we would love to achieve one day. Getting all the new MXUs is a giant step in that direction. Okay. The cost to replace our old MXUs is $140,301. This covers around 800 singles or double port MXUs. The vendors will provide a $20,481 prorated discount for each old MXU we replace, which brings the cost down to $119,820. Irrigation Co-op will contribute $44,820 towards the purchase price of the MXUs and requesting $75,000 to pay the balance of the MXUs from this grant. Water operation technicians will be doing the installation of the new MXUs in-house, so there will not be any additional costs related to this project. Any questions and answers? I know that was quick. I know you guys have a lot of other PowerPoints that our customers are coming up, so it was short and sweet. So,
all right, questions. Pat, you first.
Pat Jacobs, no questions. Thank you.
Val?
Same question as the last presenter. What's your lost and unaccounted for water currently?
Our most unaccounted water currently at this, we have about 6% right now that we're looking at.
And changing this out will save you how much? 13 acre feet?
Let me look this up real quick. It was quite a bit based on our data that we did prior to this. It would save us quite a bit of 13 acre feet a year. Just with the customer's loss that we have logged down and kept on track, that's how much it's going to save us.
Okay, thank you, Sal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Dan?
Questions? No question.
Tim?
None from me.
Okay, I guess the question I have is, this is beyond the residential meter, I presume. And what are you doing about the leaks from the production well to the residential meters, your internal leaks?
The infrastructure itself, as what we're doing, we're still keeping track of it. We try to do a hard estimate of how much water did we lose. As we're doing that, we have done a pipe study within our infrastructure, and we're trying to do a pipe replacement program as we see fit within certain areas of our infrastructure. And that would be based on how many leaks are in that certain area over a time period.
Okay, and do you have a what they call a tiered price system to your customers? In other words,
yes,
you do.
Yes.
And
yes.
What do you do when somebody comes up with a leak that's going to cost several $1,000s to repair, but only adds up to a small amount a month each month? How do you incent the people to repair those?
So right now we have, if it's their first time that they're having this large amount of cost based on a leak on their behalf, we'll do a one-time adjustment fee. We'll try to waive the tiers and put it as a one price throughout the whole usage.
Mm-hmm.
And and we have to make sure that they did repair that leak. We also, once again, with that, if they would need to break up the payments, because sometimes it's hard with these small communities out here, we'll try to divvy that up, that payment within several 3 to 4 months.
Okay. So the second month, there would not be a consideration or reduction in the water costs.
Right.
Okay. No, I don't have any more questions. I guess that's it then. Thank you very much. And who's next?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Well, my name is Paul Acosta, Project Technologist and Quality Control Manager in Tucson Water, Infrastructure, Reliability, and Integrity Systems Group. Our team consists of John Meek, Deputy Director, Pat Eisenberg, Civil Engineer, Administrator of Infrastructure, Reliability, and Integrity Systems.
Before I let you get too much further, is anybody else having trouble hearing him other than me?
Yes.
Okay.
Jacobs, yes.
I apologize.
Maybe you need to slide closer to the machine or do something. It's getting difficult to hear you.
Okay, is that better?
Oh, much better. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so John Kamik, our Deputy Director, Pat Eisenberg, Civil Engineer Administrator of IRIS, acronym for Infrastructure Reliability Integrity Systems. Candace Ruprecht, Water Conservation Program Manager, and we're here today to discuss Tucson Water's Groundwater Conservation Program. Tucson Water follows the AWWA M36 recommendation, proactively and systematically reducing non-revenue water and improving our return on investment. Our goal is to reduce system loss from 9% to 4%, saving approximately 4,757 acre-feet annually. As some are aware, Tucson Water utilizes the CAP water, costs a little over $200 per acre-feet, equates to $1 million a year savings if we could reduce our lost water by 5%. Next, please. Our system consists of 396 square miles, 4,615 miles of pipelines, 127 boosters, 138 transfer valves, 21,470 hydrants, 87,690 flow valves, 191 potable wells, 4,929 fire services, and 58 storage facilities, and serves 75% of our region's population. Next, please. Currently, our business practice has been reactive to leaks. During repairs, we perform indirect assessments by visual inspections of excavated pipe, testing for corrosion, and mitigating with cathodic protection. While adding to our maintenance management program, we analyze data and compare with our artificial intelligence pilot program. If necessary, we remove and replace with new pipe and appurtenances. Next, please. A better approach to our existing methods is to use direct method assessment by utilizing non-invasive acoustic monitoring technology in real time and collect more data to calculate the amount of water loss from leaks detected by testing. Collectively, these methods will assist us in improving our CIP planning by data-driven approach to main rehabilitation or replacement solutions. As we continue to face the challenges of our aging infrastructure, these new efficient solutions are needed moving forward. Next, please. How it works, acoustic monitoring. Next. Some of the technology will assist us in detecting leaks and preventing damage to surrounding infrastructure. Equipment can be installed on assets like fire hydrants. The small sensor is installed to blend in with the fire hydrant as another cap while collecting acoustic events. The monitoring works best during the latest hours of the night when there is less demand or activity. Next, please. Additionally, untethered technology is inserted into our transmission main to begin the leak detection by traversing the water pipe by velocity. In the end, the ball will be captured and extracted without taking the line down at predetermined locations, and its data is then downloaded for analysis. Next, please. How it works, the acoustic monitoring, again, to further our acoustic monitoring, we intend to utilize standard boots on the ground with stereo headphones to listen and confirm the sensor pickup signal are transmitting correctly. Listening for a leak, these units will be deployed immediately over the line in question and installed temporarily on other assets such as fire hydrants, combination air release valves, blow-offs, valves, and meters. If we are awarded, our success and trials will be shared with other utilities who are thinking of beginning their own program. Tucson Water is an active member of AZ Water, and we would consider offering training and presentation to the membership and water providers throughout the state. Next, please. Our sequence of work will be to develop a criticality list based on as-built drawing review, GIS files, and schematics of our distribution and transmission mains. Our team will dive deep into identifying leaks, breaks, and pressure concerns for pipeline inspections based on the team's analysis and identify section of pipe for direct assessment. Next, please. In our pursuit to reduce water loss from 9% to 4%, we will implement an integrated and dynamic water loss control program by using our maintenance management system, leak detection, and our pilot artificial intelligence program. As integrating the dynamic program will move us from a reactive state to proactively identifying weaknesses and then prioritizing and planning infrastructure improvements before they fail. Next, please. Scaling our water loss solution, our goal is to test 1,200 miles of pipeline over the next 3 years. ADWR funding requested to assess 600 miles or 271,440. Tucson Water plans to match costs of assessing 600 miles. Per mile cost allows Tucson Water to scale the project up or down. Next, please. Conservation savings of 4,757 acre feet saves 60,914 annually on raw water costs, or enough drinking water for 21,236 households annually. If CAP water stays above 200 acre feet, $200 per year acre feet, a 4% reduction in lost water could save us close to $1 million per year. As a team, we will be glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
Pat, start with you. Unmute us, Pat, if you haven't.
I just did.
Okay.
No questions. It takes me a minute. I'm sorry.
I understand. I'm slow too. Sorry. Okay, Val.
Comment, no question.
Okay. Dan?
Yes, I have a question. In acre feet per year, how much water does the city of Tucson deliver to its customers?
I'll get some help with John and, from that, please.
Yeah, this is John Kamik. We're currently around 100,000 acre feet a year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, Tim, I guess you're holding off on this one, huh?
Yes, this one's a conflict of interest for me.
Okay. I should have asked this question to the two previously, and I didn't, so I'll take it differently. But is there a set point on this thing that you have to receive the entire amount of the grant? Or if we need to, can we pare it back somewhat? And is there a break-even point where we shouldn't go below or you won't be able to perform the project?
I guess to be fair, we could scale it back. We just minimize the amount of testing that we're going to perform.
Okay, so it can be done. Then the other point is, if I can remember what I was thinking. Oh, what plans again do you have briefly to deal with the rest of the pipeline that needs to be done after you've done with this project?
Well, if we're successful, I believe that we'll actually be able to start putting it into our budget and continue our leak detection.
Well, if you save $1 million as you propose, maybe you can use some of that money. Huh?
That's fair.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. I don't think anybody else does. So we thank you very much. And who's up now? Marana. Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So if you go to the next slide, this kind of gives you an overview of where this gate will be. It's kind of a control point for the whole bottom of our district. Everything in blue there is an operating canal, and the numbers there are active wells. So what we're trying to do is we're starting a program of installing these automated gates that you can pre-program, you can access through SCADA, and that they let a set amount of flow through the gate itself. If you go to the next slide, you can kind of see this is the existing structure, obviously very old, probably going to take some work, and currently we're using weir boards and letting things through. So that's our control structure that we have that diverts the water out. Next slide. So the problems that this new gate would solve would be the leakage we have through the weir boards, our variation in the structure there. We do some repair work before the installation to true up the sides of the structure. We do get variation when we're taking CAP water for some of our storage customers. The cap flow seems to drop overnight. And so again, this gate would, if we send 10 acre feet down the Marana Road Canal, this gate would automatically adjust to keep it at 10 acre feet, no matter what else was happening in the system. It would be SCADA controlled, so we could check it from our phones, tablets, home or office. And then the location of this gate is also on the east side of the freeway, so it does benefit us because our drivers wouldn't have to go to the east side of the freeway to check. If they had a question, they could then pull it up on their phone or tablet or from the office to check it and see what was going on. And then an added benefit would be the floodwater routing we have with some of the monsoon seasons. We typically don't get much warning, and so this would allow us to have a set point for that gate during flood season, keep most of the water running down the main canal and not take out our main gate or any of our structures down the Marana Road area. The next slide. So this kind of shows what the gate looks like. It is a tipping gate so that it's very sealed up on the sides, no waste around the edges. It automatically adjusts as we go forward, throughout the day to whatever it's preset at, and will, automatically adjust to get as little or as much as we want in it until all the other water in the canal would be exhausted. It will take it all the way down if necessary. Next slide. So this is the quotes we've had for the gate. We're 28,720. They said that they would need some of our help to install that. And then the installation of some of the SCADA equipment. The total requested is $30,092. CMID will purchase the SCADA equipment. And so our part of that would be the $12,000. The next slide. So we measured this a couple of times in the off season and during the running season. Well, at the low end, we were getting about 0.3 CFS leakage through, and on the high end, we were doubling that. We took measurements. We used the lower measurement, and we only figured it for about 7 months out of the year to figure our 126 acre feet of savings for this project. And before Val asks, I'll tell her that typically we've been running anywhere, depending on the year and the water we use, we run between 3 to 6% waste on our total water usage for the year. All right, any questions or?
I'm sure they're going to be. Pat, you're on.
No questions.
Val.
Thank you, Doug, for pre-answering.
That's the only question, I guess. Okay. Dan?
No questions here.
Tim?
No questions. Well done, Doug.
The purchase of the SCADA equipment, will that then allow you to contact the other new devices as you install them?
Yeah, so this is a SCADA equipment. It reports back to our office, and then guys can access it on their phones or from, for instance, we can log in from our homes into remote PC and connect to it as well. So we can pretty much access it from anywhere.
Okay. And the water that you call waste, when it goes over the weir or less than, where does that water go?
So at the end of Luckett Road, if you went back to the map, at the end of Luckett Road, is an unofficial pond out by the Veterans Cemetery where any excess water we have runs into there. It's actually a farmer's pond, and he'll pull out of it occasionally. There's 2 or 3 farmers that will actually pull out of there at the end of the day, but a lot of it just goes in and either settles back into the ground or evaporates.
Okay. All right, no other questions, I guess. So then, thank you very much, Doug. And
Thank you.
Who would be next?
Mr. Chair, this is Einav here. So we apparently went through the first 5 presentations much quicker than we anticipated. We do have a break schedule now, but if GUAC members would like, we could go through the next 4 presentations. So it's up to you to decide how you would like to go through with this.
Anybody in favor of taking a break right this minute? I'd say no. I'd say let's go ahead then, Einav, if it's okay with everybody and they're available to do them.
Excellent. So the next one is Town of Marana.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Thumbs up.
Yes, we can all hear you.
Great, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Jones, and I'm the Business Services Coordinator for Marana Water. I'm here today to share with you our Groundwater Conservation Grant Program submission, the Citizens Water Academy. Our academy will host participants, teach them conservation interventions, and upon completion of the program, install advanced metering infrastructure endpoints at their home to encourage their self-monitoring and allow us to track and compare usage over time. I'll share a brief background of Marana Water and outline the 2 facets of our program. We are requesting $25,000 from the ADWR grant program and have approximately $10,000 of in-kind contributions, making our entire program cost $35,000. Next slide, please. So we are in the northwest portion of the Tucson Active Management Area. Their total town boundary incorporates about 125 square miles. The map in front of you outlines our existing service area in that dark blue color and our intended service area, which is in that light blue color. As you can see, we have a lot of room for growth, and we have been one of the fastest growing municipalities in the state for several years in a row. Our conservation program is intended to help us use our current water resources to serve as many customers as possible. We have about 8,500 connections, and over 93% of those connections are residential. Our GPCD fluctuates around 105, with those changes attributable to our construction water use. We are in the non-per capita conservation program, meaning we have to follow BMPs, and currently it's relatively passive. We started a conservation program in earnest a few years ago through multiple partnerships, including one with Water Casa that has helped us develop our internal resources as well as these partnerships to meet our BMPs. Our program proposal is exactly what we need to kickstart our independent conservation program, both due to our growing customer base and the shift of several of our partners from a more active role to a more passive and supportive role. As I mentioned, we're one of the fastest growing communities in the state, and by enhancing our conservation program, we'll be able to serve as many customers as possible with a renewable resource, both a goal of our department and for the AMA. The use of advanced metering infrastructure and our data analysis will give us as much information as possible to make data-driven decisions for future conservation efforts. Next slide, please. So who's going to be doing this work? So here's our project team. Our Citizens Water Academy is going to be housed in our Business Services Division. Our Business Services Coordinator will be our project lead. Our Water Resources Coordinator will help preparing content and development of our program with our community partners. And our entire operations team will be involved as subject matter experts, as well as completing the installation of the AMI endpoints after the customers have completed their academies. You're looking here at the bulk of our in-kind contribution. We've estimated about 210 staff hours will be dedicated to this project, and we intend to hold the Citizens Water Academy multiple times over our 3-year time period, each time requiring 65 hours of staff time. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do? Here's our details. The first step is to, on the 2 facets of our project, the first is to update all of our conservation materials. We have new townwide branding, and our materials currently do not have any digital formats or a web presentation format. We need to update both of those things to make it meet our customer needs and to ensure that we're following the updated brand of the town. The second facet is to create the Citizens Water Academy. It's intended to be a 4 to 6 week program. We'll recruit our customers to be participants and provide them specialized knowledge on water conservation at home. Again, after they've completed the program, we'll install that AMI endpoint and give them access to their own data so they can see in real time what the water conservation interventions can help at their property. We have a proposed 3-year timeline, which includes enough time for us to hold multiple sessions of the Citizens Water Academy, as well as to allow us enough time to do the data analysis to see any significant water consumption changes over time. The update of the conservation materials will only happen once, and the bulk printing of them will also only happen at the beginning of the program. As I mentioned, our project cost is $35,000. We do have that $10,000 of in-kind contributions, and we have a small $2,500, cash contribution on the conservation material update. We're going to be using innovative technology by the way of installing and configuring AMI meters. We'll use our online resources and tools during the Citizens Water Academy sessions. We've all become very versed in digital and virtual formats of sharing information. Throughout the global pandemic, we will be able to implement our Citizens Water Academy regardless of if we're still in stay-at-home orders or if we're doing in-person education. And finally, we'll be promoting and highlighting our program through an exhaustive public outreach and engagement campaign, including expanding our relationships with the University of Arizona, the Water Resource Research Center, homeowners associations, Water Casa, and more. Next slide, please. So here's the overview of the update of our conservation materials. So these will be a significant benefit to our burgeoning conservation program. We have been fortunate to partner with Water Casa in the past, who've provided materials to help us meet our BMPs. But as I mentioned, we do have updated branding and do have the need to prepare the information for a digital and web presentation. We'll work with our internal graphic designer to compare the look and feel of the documents, but we'll partner with subject matter experts to create the content. This again is where that small $2,500 in cash contribution is proposed. That's to ensure that we get them digitally prepared as well as the large volume printing. Next slide. Here's an overall snapshot of our program. Like with any training program, you'll recruit, complete the program, track your program, and then hopefully be able to repeat it. Next slide. Now for the nitty-gritty. So we will recruit 15 to 20 participants in our first step. That's going to be done. We're going to create a web page with content information about the program, as well as a web portal for registration. We will do social media outreach, traditional media outreach, bill stuffers, statements in our mail, all kinds of engagement programs in order to recruit those participants. Our second step is to create the content in collaboration with our subject matter experts from groups like I mentioned, the WRRC, Water Casa, Arizona Project WET, the University of Arizona, intending to hold a 4 to 6 week period of several sessions teaching our participants about how to conserve groundwater at home. There will be both didactic and hands-on examples of these types of conservation interventions. The final session will hold a training program on how to view the customer portal in conjunction with installation of the AMI endpoint at their property. So when they leave our sessions, they will have all the tools, all their questions answered in order to view that information at home. One of the pieces I want to be sure we highlight is our extensive survey component. So we will pre and post survey our participants during the Water Citizens Academy. And we will also have quarterly correspondence with them to answer any questions they may have, do any sort of conservation messaging refreshers, as well as see if there has been any change in their water consumption. We are intending internally to track the consumption over a 12-month period so we can account for any seasonality in their water use. Not only are we hoping that these interventions will lead to a reduction in our residential groundwater use, but we're also hoping that this will help Marana Water pilot an advanced metering infrastructure in our system. Again, we're intending to use this information to make the best data-driven decisions as possible to ensure we're conserving as much groundwater from our residential customers as we can. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I thank you for your time today. And that's the Marana Citizens Water Academy.
Thank you very much. Questions? Pat, you're first.
Pat, no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Val?
No comment, no questions.
Dan?
No questions for me.
Tim?
No questions.
You guys are a bunch of pushovers today. I don't know. You mentioned in your brief here that you're expecting to recruit 15 to 20 participants per course and host 2 courses a year during the pilot program?
Yes, that's correct.
So you would then presumably install 35, 40 of these AMIs?
That's right. Every participant would have an AMI endpoint added. 15 to 20 is what we estimated at the beginning of the program. Hopefully there's enough interest that we could grow in years 2 and 3.
Okay. What's the cost of an AMI?
The whole meter endpoint radio is about $120 each.
Okay. And what do you anticipate doing at the end of the grant relative to continuing?
The hope is that we can prove that this has been successful and continue funding it through our general operations budget.
Okay. No other questions? Then thank you very much, Amanda. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Next would be Gary, I guess, with swimming pools.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for this opportunity. I want to talk to you about a proposal to incentivize the removal of unused and unwanted swimming pools. Next. I've been investigating municipal water issues for most of my adult life. I would be joined in this proposal by Tim Valenzuela, who is a systems programmer who has produced a number of websites, phone apps, and kiosks that have an emphasis on attractiveness and ease of use for the user.
Are you still there, Gary? Is anybody else getting Gary?
No,
We
I'm not.
lost Gary too.
All right, INAV, do your magic. Grab Gary.
Yeah.
What do you need to do? Dial him back in, or should we go to the next presentation and put Gary back in?
Corner screen.
It seems like it's his internet connection. So Gary, if you hear us, maybe try and get to a location that has better connection.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next project's Gary's too, isn't it? Nope, there he is.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It said I had 5 bars of connection, but I disconnected and reconnected. So sorry about that. Did you hear what I said with the previous slide, or do we need to? The last point I was making was that in addition to the systems programmer, Tucson Water has pledged in-kind contribution of a graphic artist for this.
Yes, we heard that.
Okay, so I'm going to briefly talk about three studies that shed light on this phenomenon of swimming pool removals. The first one was a series of modeling efforts for 4 local and 7 municipal providers in the Phoenix area, which revealed that pool removals are a thing, that they seem to be increasing over time. And if you just take the assessor's data at face value, they're significant. This is for different parts of Tucson. This is the number of pools removed per pool added. You can see in some parts of town that's more than half a pool being removed for every new pool going in. However, we also determined that the assessor data missed a lot of pool removals. A lot of people don't notify the assessor. Next. And so this is an underestimate of the rate of pool removals. Next. So we turn to remote sensing data. Here's an image showing a pool with a spa. Next. And through next, amazing coincidence, the next one showed it actually being removed. So on this one, we know the actual day that it was removed. Next. And then we can see it was replaced with a deck and a patio. Next. So this kind of information allowed us to do some analysis on what was going on. Tucson Water funded a study looking at this specific issue for their service area. Next. One of the findings was there's an array of ways to remove a pool from quick fill, cheap and easy, but the decking remains all the way to remove everything, all traces of the pool in case you want to build on top of that spot. Next. So as we all know, the more expensive a home, the more likely it is to have a pool. Next. Half of all the pools are in the upper 20% of homes by value. Next. But this study revealed that if there is a pool, the odds of it being removed go up with the lower cost homes. So it's a kind of an inverse relationship. Next. So you put these two together and you look at the numbers of pools we found removed by home value, and you actually see it's fairly flat, or maybe with a couple of peaks. Next. There's anecdotal residents that in the upper end homes, pools are removed as part of remodeling the backyard, whereas in the middle to lower value homes, it's a cost saving move. Next. Next. So the engineering estimate of savings is about 26,000 gallons per year plus leaks, but there's a lot of assumptions involved in that. We did an econometric analysis and came up with 34,000 gallons a year, including leaks. Next. We removed those cases where there was clearly very large leaks, and we came up with 29,000 a year plus leaks. Next. Next. So those two agree within 10%. As far as the average leak, we best have maybe a guesstimate of about 5,000. So removing an unused pool saves you about 1/10 of an acre foot per year. Next. We also found out that nobody replaces a pool with irrigated turf or lush landscaping. There were 3 pools here. The one in the middle got a trampoline put over the top of it. The one on the left was a quick removal, leaving the pool decking. So that's actual water savings. Next. We identified 7 different categories of costs. Water was one of the smaller ones, only about 5%. The big ones are always electricity and chemicals. And if you use a pool company, that is another big one. But the total cost of keeping an unused pool exceeds $2,000 a year. So the payback period for removing one is about 2 years. Next. We also asked about non-pecuniary benefits of pool removal. Next. And we heard a lot of different things, but one of the big ones is you reclaim your yard, you can actually do something else with the spot where the unused pool was. There's also safety issues involved with having an unused pool. Next. So the third study was part of a broader effort to update a water demand model for Tucson Water. There was a survey as part of that. We surveyed people who had removed pools. We surveyed people with older homes that had pools. So the biggest finding was that if you have an older home with a pool, 1 out of 6 said they were considering removing it. But then when asked, well, why haven't you? Of the 6 top reasons listed, 5 basically boiled down to, I need information. I don't know how. Next. For those who did remove a pool, they were asked what motivated them to do it. Saving money and saving water were the top reasons, followed by freeing up that area and avoiding expensive repairs, and then finally safety issues. Next. When asked about other benefits of pool removal, having more space, avoiding the maintenance, and safety continued to be the top responses. Next. So this research has identified a problem that there's a lot of people who would like to get rid of an old pool that isn't being used, and a proposed solution filling the knowledge gap. Next, I want to talk very briefly about the proposed website, the workshops, and the rebate program. Next. So this will be an interactive website in 2 areas. One will be that the user will be able to put in information about their specific home and their specific pool, and it will figure out an estimate of what they're currently paying in all 7 cost categories to keep that unused pool. Next. The other will ask them a few simple questions about their pool and their backyard and which type of removal they're interested in, and that will give them a range of price for getting it removed. Next. The workshop will be patterned after existing workshops funded by Tucson Water and run through Cooperative Extension Smartscape. It's anticipated to be a 2-hour workshop. There is funding in the proposal to develop it and offer it 4 times. If it's popular, if it's successful, hopefully it will continue on after that. Next. The rebate of $100 is a fairly small amount of the total cost of removing a pool. And as I said, the payback period is under 2 years. So why would we even have it? There's 2 reasons. One, as a marketing tool to get people's interest, to drive them to the website, to get them to sign up for the workshops, to find out more. And the other is when they apply for the rebate, we know they removed a pool. We can verify that, and we can then figure out the actual water savings involved for removing that pool. $100 was considered the minimum amount that might pique their interest. Next. And that's it. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Pat.
No questions. Thank you.
Val?
I think you can do 400, get 400 pools removed in a year or 2 years or 3 years?
That would only be a couple I think well under 2% of all the pools out there. So I think you just might be able to. And I hate to say this, but the kind of economic conditions we are going into is what seems to maybe motivate people to do this. So I think that's pretty conservative given the number of pools that are out there and the number that are in older homes.
And what if you only got 10 people interested?
Then it would be an abject failure.
What would you do with that $40,000?
Return it. Yeah, I just have a hard time imagining that that would happen. We clearly need to effectively market the rebate, use the rebate, and to market the fact that this information is out there. Every class I've taught for Smartscape, you know, there's usually 30, 40, sometimes 50 people signing up, and these things are offered 6-8 times a year. I would just be shocked if we didn't give away those 400 rebates. We would hope for you know, notices in water bills. I suspect that we can also get some free media coverage out of it too. I suspect we can, you know, get some articles in various publications. The proposal lists a number of ways that we would market this.
Val, any more?
No, that's it.
Okay, Dan?
No questions here.
Tim?
No comment.
Okay. Is this proposed to be in the entire AMA, or is it localized, this process? Like, how do you...
This would be for all service areas in the AMA that want to participate. We would need to get some historical billing data in order to calculate the savings, to look at billing before, during, and after. But no, we've gotten interest. Oro Valley has said they're in, Tucson Water is in and willing to contribute $25,000 plus significant in-kind help. Marana Water is in, and, you know, frankly, I didn't have time to approach all of them, but anybody who wants to participate, any water provider that wants to participate, we will accommodate.
Is there any thought or plan to identify appropriate contractors to work with the program? Or is there any, I'm thinking of somebody who has a pool and wants to get rid of it, but cannot afford an upfront $6,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 to do it. And how could they finance that process? Is there anything through, I don't know, what's the Water Protection Fund or any funds available to folks to help defray the upfront costs?
Chairman Mawhinney, if you do the quick, cheap way that leaves the decking in place, you pretty much are pounding a hole in the bottom of the pool, turning off the utilities and filling it in with dirt. It's it can be $1,000 or less to do that, not $5,000 or $6,000 or $8,000. Even if you do the one where you remove the decking and the top, typically 2.5 to 3 feet of the pool sides, you're still looking at between $3,000 and $4,000, depending on access to the backyard and some other factors. So it's not quite that expensive. Given all the savings, it does kind of scream out for a low-cost loan program. The savings are not in the water bill for the most part. You know, they're overwhelmingly energy, electricity, and chemicals. So it's a little tricky to figure out who would be willing to make the short-term loan that would be repaid by utility savings.
Do we have data to what property taxes are affected? How much?
Yeah, it actually, Chairman Mawhinney, I discovered it has nothing to do with how big or new or nice your pool is. It is which of 7 zones in Pima County you live in. And it's a binary thing. Either you have a pool or not, and depending on which part of town you're in, they raise the estimated value of a home by a set amount. So one of the savings when you remove a pool, if you contact the assessor, is they will lower the estimated value of your home and proportionally lower your property taxes.
Can you give us a range, Gary, of what that runs?
Oh,
I would think that would be.
In the foothills, I believe it was around 20,000. In my Midtown neighborhood, it's about 12,000. There's a couple neighborhoods where it's less than that.
Yeah.
The range might be 80 to 20,000.
Okay.
In value, estimated value.
Okay, any more questions for Gary on pool removal? No, okay. The next project then, I think is still yours, Gary.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal is about offering water efficiency audits to customers with one or more irrigation meters with an emphasis on homeowners associations. Next. So on this project, I would be working with Roger Van Gelder, who has been doing commercial, industrial, and institutional and multifamily audits for over 20 years. He and I have been doing them for over 5 years for Tucson Water. We're entering the 4th year of audits for Scottsdale Water. Next. We've been engaged in one way or another with nearly 300 audits. So we built a database and saw some patterns, which we were already, for the most part, aware of. Leaks are very common, particularly in buried lines. When identified, whoever pays the water bill is quick to repair leaks. The other recommendations that we make, equipment upgrades typically, have an average payback period of 5 months, and typically we identify about 12% of total water use as potential savings. Next. Over the last couple of years, our audits have focused on more of the bigger, complex customers. It includes locally Star Pass and Canyon Ranch, and in Scottsdale, the Princess Resort. They're particularly good candidates because of extensive turf and other irrigated landscaping and the many pools, fountains, ponds, and other features. Next. Next. So we found that of all of the audited facilities, 22% had one or more irrigation meters. If they had an irrigation meter, on average, they had nearly 2, about 1.9 on average. A quarter of these facilities with irrigation meters had at least one continuous leak, 24/7, 365. We would expect to find even more because we're going to pre-screen and look for likely candidates. Next. If you do have a continuous leak, they're large, they're costly. The 853 acre feet per year of usage through those irrigation meters, just under 10% was continuous leaks. It's not including the intermittent leaks. Per leaky irrigation meter, we found 5.5 acre feet per year of leakage. If you just look at all irrigation meters, leaking and non-leaking, on average, 0.8 acre feet per year of leaks. Depending on whose rate structure you look at, that's costing the user between $9,000 and $11,000 a year. Next. In addition, we'll look for non-continuous leaks. We always look for broken irrigation heads. We also want to look at the possibility that the irrigation schedules are way off. Tucson Water has found in a previous study that between 1/3 and half of the irrigation systems they have either significant leaks or scheduling problems. Scheduling problems can take several forms, including just using too much water year-round, not adjusting for precipitation, or not adjusting for seasonality of demand. Next. So we will identify these issues before we begin the audits. Next. The case for concentrating on HOAs is that they've been largely ignored, and because of their structure, the responsibility for efficient irrigation is split between the association, a management company, and typically a third-party landscape company. We're not the only ones to identify HOAs as the low-hanging conservation fruit that CAGRD has, Tucson Water has, Community Water of Green Valley, City of Scottsdale. Next. So I recently completed a study of water demand and potential conservation for the GRD. I looked at 10 years of annual water use data for 140,000 properties, had monthly data for 1 year for about half of them. Next. One of the conclusions and recommendations, having talked to a lot of builders, homeowners association, management companies, is that this is an area where there's a need and also considerable interest. Based on this, the CAGRD has pledged to help support the proposals. Next. So in general, what we do is work with water providers to identify interested parties, ask for 4 years of monthly billing data. If they've got automatic meter reading, we try to get the 40 days roughly of hourly data, send a survey to them. We then do an initial visit and we talk to them, review and complete the survey, walk around, take pictures. Next. That's followed by deploying instruments and data loggers, including high frequency loggers on all the meters we find and ultrasonic meters on key unmetered lines. We also test conductivity for signs of leakage as well. Next. We then give them a concise report that gives historical water use, the breakdown of uses, describes the problems and opportunities uncovered, including payback periods. And then we follow up to verify that the leaks were repaired and to see which other recommendations have been followed. Next. What will differ here somewhat is that we'll develop a database of the irrigation meter customers. We'll get the 4 years of monthly data and the hourly data where available, but we'll also use remote sensing. In some cases, the providers can help us with it. They already have it. In some cases, they've done the analysis. Otherwise, we'll use Google Earth data, and we'll look for suspicious patterns, increases over time, spikes in usage, situations where there's always some flow, lack of the expected seasonality, and we'll calculate rough irrigation efficiencies and target those that have particularly bad irrigation efficiencies. Next. We will offer them the free audits. We will follow the procedure that I just described. We'll visit at least twice. We'll use our loggers. We'll do visual inspections, take conductivity readings, deploy ultrasonic meters where necessary. If there is a common area swimming pool, we'll do additional analysis on that. Next. We'll then present a very short, succinct 3-page report telling them about continuous leaks and other irrigation issues. We will be following up with them to see what they have done, to remind them of the possibility to save money in water. We'll measure effectiveness by multiple criteria, including estimates of the water savings based on the amount of leaks beforehand, and we will also do an econometric analysis looking at billing before, during, and after to estimate it as well. Next. That's it. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Pat?
Pat Jacobs, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to make a statement so it's clear. As a member of the board for the Central Arizona Project, we asked the staff to develop for the replenishment district a conservation program and then set out a budget. That was the total extent of my knowledge of the program which the staff has supported, and there's a letter to the director stating that they have a $10,000 contribution. So therefore, I don't feel as though I have a conflict This is the first time I'm hearing this in any detail, and I had no part in the decision of doing that. I was completely the general manager and the staff. Thank you. No questions.
Okay. Val?
I'm sort of musing, Gary, that, thinking back about the low floor program, do you think that HOA boards would be more amenable to upping their fees to make the changes that you might recommend to them than would the management company or the owners of multifamily or commercial properties?
Mr. Chairman, Member Little, as part of the study for the GRD, I talked with the president of the largest management company out there, and what I learned was that if you get your water subject to the GRD, you're paying more for your water than others are, and because of the increasing difficulty in finding surplus water, rates are going up. And so she described a situation where a lot of HOA boards had already started looking for ways to reduce their common area water usage. She said that a lot of them were looking into smart irrigation controllers, were looking into on-site simple weather stations, and I didn't actually know this, but in a lot of these cases, the water bill, there is no separate water bill for the common area. It's calculated and then divided evenly among all of the homeowners that live there. And she described a situation where increasingly the HOA boards are coming under pressure to keep costs down, to look for areas where they can reduce costs, and that this was leading to much more interest in water efficiency, not necessarily doing it in all cases, but struggling to figure out how they can reduce water use in their common areas just over the last 2 or 3 years.
It'd be interesting to see. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, yes, you're welcome.
Dan?
No questions.
Tim?
No comment.
Are you relying, Gary, on these HOAs voluntarily coming into the program, or are you going to go, how do you identify who you're going to contact and work with?
Mr. Chairman, we can build the database with support from water providers and with support from the GRD. So this is another instance where we need the water providers to indicate that they want to be part of this. And we've already heard that from Tucson Water, Community Water, the Water Council of Green Valley. Oh boy, I'm forgetting one. Anyway, I'm not sure that's addressing your question. Would you please repeat that?
Well, I'd like to know how you perhaps get around a reluctant to be involved management company and get to the board of the HOAs who have more direct interest in cutting costs.
Mr. Chairman, it's the board that looks at the budget and has to pay the water bills. So they should be the ones with the incentive to reduce that to the degree that they can. And in some places, there's associations of HOAs. This is a very well-organized, strong group in the Green Valley area, for instance. So that offers us one conduit. The other is the very large management company that I talked to a couple of times expressed considerable interest in being able to take offers of assistance either from the providers or from the GRD to the HOAs. I was really quite surprised at the enthusiastic response I got to questions about these types of offers.
Okay. I just, because of your proposal, I asked our HOA about how they handled the thing, and they indicated that when they had a management company, there was no interest at all in reducing the cost. So they got rid of the management company. They reduced the amount of water used in our common areas from 2.6 million gallons a year down to 1.2 by working individually, in the HOA among volunteers and setting meters. And the idea, once again, was that they had to come up with some money in advance. And talking HOAs into a dues raise is a difficult thing. Excuse me. But I guess that's something you'll have to work on, I guess.
Well, Mr. Chairman, also we're looking for continuous leaks.
Yeah.
And that's usually not an issue of can we afford it or not. People
True.
tend to jump right on those continuous leaks.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Pat Jacobs, Mr. Chairman,
Pat.
the replenishment district's interest, for information, is that it reduces the need to replenish water and the cost thereof to the Central Arizona Water District.
If everybody's not on the CAWCD or CAGRD water use, right?
Correct, but there's a large amount. There is, what was it? Something 140,000 homes.
Yeah, I don't know what that percentage.
Gary, and maybe if you only took half of them, you would be 65, 70,000 homes involved in. We constantly are looking for water to meet our replenishment obligation, and conservation is one way to resolve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jacobs, I believe the statistic is that over the last few years, just over half of all the new homes built in these counties have been built subject to the GRD.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Gary on the presentation on the HOA situation?
Chairman Winnie, this is Einav with AWR. I do have a question that Mr. Woodard would probably anticipate from our Phoenix meeting, if you don't mind me asking, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I mind deeply, but go ahead.
So, Gary, if only one of those projects that you presented on could be funded, which of those do you think will provide the most benefit to the Tucson AMA?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Ms. Henderson, my answer for the Phoenix AMA, I hadn't thought about it, but as I kind of stumbled around a bit, I realized that one of those proposals was for leaks that go to sewer systems and the water can be reused, and the other was for leaks that result in evaporation and loss. However, these both involve water that evaporates or leaks and cannot, leaks down into the aquifer, but probably is not recoverable. So the justification I gave in that case doesn't really hold here. So you think I would have thought about this, but so for the one, let's assume you had 400 rebates and you're saving just about 1/10 of an acre foot per year. So you're saving 40 acre feet a year for $64,000. I believe we promised a minimum of 50 audits, and we would expect that to produce about 95 irrigation meters times 0.8 acre feet a piece. So that'd be about 72 acre feet for about $75,000. There's not a whole lot of difference there in terms of the money per acre foot saved. I'd have to come up with some other criterion to decide which one might be more effective. I mean, I could think about it between now and Wednesday.
Yeah, the idea might be which one could be most clearly defined at the end of the project as being successful.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we would have billing data from before, during, and after in both cases. So if success is measured that way, I don't see it. One of the successes you might get from incentivizing backyard pools is this might create more of a, right now the pool removal industry is kind of hidden, hard to find, low profile. This might flush them out. They might actually start competing and advertising with each other. So that would be good. On the other hand, I was told that one of the benefits of the HOA audits is an opportunity to build working relationships, better relationships between the water providers and the HOAs. So again, I'm not sure. Maybe that would help you decide, but it's still kind of a toss-up for me.
Any other questions? INAV?
No questions here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Gary, then thank you very much. If we have no other questions, then INAV, we need to talk for a moment or two about, given the time, what we have available to do that we might accomplish now as opposed to Wednesday.
Mr. Chair, we do have one more presentation, and we will be done with all of the presentations. So if you would want to, we can just go through that one.
Yes, I'm sorry. Somehow I slipped right away from that. Let's have the next presentation. Tanque Verde Valley Groundwater Users Incentive Program. We might have got so ahead of schedule that she's not prepared. I don't know. Trevor Hare, is it? Or Harry? There you go. Hi. We're all ready for you, Trevor. Except we can't hear you. Anybody hear Trevor?
No, not yet.
Okay. Push another button, Trevor. You're muted. If you hear me, wave your hand to the camera. Okay. We're not hearing anything from you at all. You, oh, yeah. Yes. No, we lost you again, Trevor. Not going to work, I'm afraid. Have an alternative way of communicating because you're not coming through. I can see your lips moving, but I'm not hearing any.
Trevor, maybe you can disconnect and connect again. That may help. We still don't hear you.
Well, why don't we give Trevor 5 minutes or so to get organized while we discuss what we have to do tonight and before the meeting on Wednesday. Why don't you go over that again, INAV, while he's trying to come back on, and when he gets back on, we'll check with him.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So
hello.
We would like the members. Oh, I think we may hear Trevor. Do you want to speak again?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
Oh, good. I've had this issue with everything except Zoom. So I get it on Google, I get it on the web, the Cisco, I get it on Microsoft Teams. I think it's just my old computer. Anyway, thank you for having me, Chairman, members of the committee, staff. I'm Trevor Hare. I'm the Restoration Director with Watershed Management Group. We have a 50-year vision to see the restoration of the rich cultural and natural heritage of flowing creeks and rivers in Tucson. And We are part of the Santa Cruz Watershed Collaborative, in addition, doing large-scale restoration planning across the basin. So this is a piece of that larger vision and a piece of the vision of the Santa Cruz Watershed Collaborative. Next slide, please. So the Tanque Verde Valley is probably the wettest place in the Tucson Basin right now that's not flowing with effluent. And just beautiful areas out there. This is near the confluence of the Agua Caliente and the Tanque Verde. Flows ephemerally there. Next slide, please. And the goals of this project are to reduce groundwater withdrawals in the Tanque Verde Sabino Canyon, Sabino Creek shallow groundwater area. We will engage groundwater users in this area to reduce their groundwater use through indoor efficiencies and outdoor conservation practices. Next slide, please. This is just a map from Pima Association of Governments Shallow Groundwater Report from 2012, showing kind of the extent of the shallow groundwater area and the wells. And I have another picture of the wells. Go to the next slide, please. Oh, just there is one stretch of the Tanque Verde that is perennial year round. It sometimes dries up in June, but it's still flowing as of yesterday. And this is between Tanque Verde and Tanque Verde, or between Wentworth Road and Tanque Verde Loop Road. And we think it's flowing there because the previous use of the well water in that area was going towards 49er Country Club, and they are now using reclaimed water. And so we think that has really promoted flow in this area for at least the past 10 years. Next slide, please. So from your website, just a quick graphic. You all know there's a lot of wells out there, 722 exempt and 257 non-exempt water producing wells in the shallow groundwater area. That data again comes from PAG. Next slide, please. Just another, I like pretty pictures in my presentation. So this is another photo near the Wentworth area. Next slide, please. So our tasks are to get out there on the ground and engage well users, then perform our audits and consults, install our incentives, do some monitoring to show, evaluate the impact that this program will have, and then some money left over for maintenance after the first year after installation to get back out on the ground with the landowner to make sure that they are maintain and know how to maintain and are keeping their conservation measures in good shape, and then of course reporting back to you all on our progress. So next slide, please. Engagement, we've all gone through this, lots of engagement happening in the office, on site. Depending on how the COVID goes, we might be at the next slide doing engagement like we're doing today. We just don't know what it's going to look like, but we're planning on starting this in the fall, so hopefully things are picked back up. Some of the engagement pieces that we will be doing include through the larger Tanque Verde Valley Association. We will engage through HOAs, neighborhood associations. We have a whole bunch of River Run Network, and that's our community network that is helping us in our 50-year vision. And we have about, I'm looking at my notes here, we have about 250 households that are River Run networks in the Tanque Verde Valley. We're working closely with 49er Country Club. We're starting to work with the Lakes at Castle Rock, who are probably the second largest groundwater user in the area. They need to switch over to reclaimed. And so we've been working with them for the last couple of years trying to figure that out. We will probably end up having to advertise this a bit out there in different newsletters. Hopefully we can get some stories in the newspaper. So we're old hands at engaging people on water conservation. So I see our goal in the engagement is to get 20 participating groundwater users. Next slide, please. Then we have hooked up with Tucson Water to use their Tucson Water Zeneros who do their water audits. And then our project designers who do the outdoor conservation work or designs and the installation. And so many of the Zeneros have gone through our water harvesting certification course. And so there's been a bit of cross-pollination going on, but really working together and getting the Zeneros to think more about outdoor efficiencies, outdoor conservation, besides just the hose bib and the irrigation, and getting our project designers to think more about indoor efficiencies will go a long way. Next slide, please. Some of those indoor water conservation incentives could be using gray water on landscaping. Watershed Group believes that no groundwater should be used in irrigation. We want to use rainwater. We want to use storm water. We understand it takes a couple of years to get native landscape plants settled in before they can survive just on rainwater. And so a little bit of irrigation is okay, but we really would like to get everybody in the Tucson Basin from not using groundwater for landscape irrigation. Next slide, please. Tanks are a great way. We don't install the big metal tanks anymore. They rust too easy. They're hard to install. We've gone to plastic tanks. And we've also gone to a model that don't just buy a tank for tank's sake because you want to save water. If you're not going to garden or have an orchard of some sort of some heritage fruit trees in your backyard, you don't have any need for a tank because you can do this all just by passively harvesting the rainwater that falls on your land. Next slide, please. Just another shot of one of our volunteer workshops where volunteers are installing both the tank on your left and the plants in the front yard there. Next slide, please. So this is we have a flow monitoring program, Flow 365, so we can start to track a response to some of our restoration work, because we've got restoration sites where we've done erosion control and slowing type of structures on the landscape out there to slow water down and sink it into the shallow groundwater area before it hits the Rito, Santa Cruz, goes to Pinal County, gets sucked out of the ground, put on alfalfa, they get shipped to China. We want to keep all that water here. So we need to monitor to track and so you can see from this graphic that we have about 10 or 12 monitors, volunteer monitors in the Tanque Verde Valley monitoring flow. However, go to the next slide. We've only got 3 people monitoring groundwater level. Of course, Tucson Water monitors, Metro Water monitors. We've recently come to an agreement with Tucson Water where they're sharing their groundwater monitoring data on an almost real time instead of on a yearly time frame. But we only have 3. We have 2 along Sabino and 1 up at Agua Caliente Park. We need more water monitors along the Tanque Verde proper. And so in the budget, we have about, I can't remember, and it's not showing in my notes how many of the level loggers we have proposed to buy. On the picture there is the guy who's monitoring there on the Agua Caliente, actually has an old ranch well that he just lifts the lid and he's got he just drops a string down with a weight on it and measures the level every day. So it's pretty cool to be able to look down that well and see the water level right there, less than 20 feet from the surface. Next slide, please. And then maintenance. We've been doing this a long time, doing water harvesting landscapes, gray water, laundry to landscape, passive and active water harvesting systems. We are the experts on how to install and how to maintain during this time of shelter in place. We've produced quite a few online and visual video courses in this type of stuff. So there's one, how to prolong the life of your rain tank. Next one. Next slide, please. How we have a field guide for how you care for your rain garden, your storm water or your rainwater fed landscape. We are actually rewriting this right now with a grant from the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management. Next slide, please. And then just another example of one of our online trainings that we've come up with in the last 3 months, how to do a L to L, a laundry to landscape gray water system. It works fantastic because your washing machine has a pump and it acts like a pump, and it'll pump the water much farther than a passive gray water system can go. That's only goes with gravity. Next slide, please. And then reporting is always one of my tasks. It's the boring task. My boss, Catlo Shipek, gets to do the reporting. However, we really think this program could have legs, and we will be really excited to be sharing progress and our evaluation of our impact. And we really think we could grow this program both in the Tanque Verde Valley and also in other shallow groundwaters in Tucson and in Arizona and in the desert Southwest. Next slide, please. Timeline, again, starting the fourth quarter and going for 2 years. Next slide, please. Outcomes, we want to increase the use of a diverse portfolio of water resources at a landowner level. We want to reduce groundwater pumping in the critical shallow groundwater area. We want to, this is another big thing that we think this program will do, is increase the awareness of these groundwater supported riparian vegetation communities. People move to the Tanque Verde Valley because of the mesquite bosque and the cottonwood willow forest, but then they pump water all day long to put on a lawn. So there's a bit of a disconnect between what they're doing and their awareness. So really increasing the awareness out there will go a long ways. And then again, like I mentioned, develop a program that can be replicated elsewhere. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Questions, it says. Pat, you're first.
Ask me questions.
I wish I had some. Thank you. Pat Jacobs.
Okay, Pat. Val?
Trevor, what's the amount of water you anticipate saving? What's your own goal that you've set for the duration of this project if funded? How many?
So I'm a biologist, so I'd ask Cat, the hydrologist, this. So we would like to, so outside irrigation accounts for approximately 30% of residential water use. So right there, we'd like to reduce residential groundwater use by 30%. Our goal would be to get folks to the Tucson average of about 80 gallons per day instead of what they are out in the Tanque Verde.
Hello, this is Irma calling from Dr. Fishkin and Bakewell. This message is for Mr. Jacobs to let you know that we have the temple.
And so really overall, I think we can hopefully realize about a 10% reduction in groundwater withdrawals, depending on who our 20 people are. Some people are irrigating horse pastures and some people are irrigating lawns. So it's really going to depend on the scale of the folks that we can get interested to joining this program.
Thank you.
Dan?
No questions.
Tim?
No comment.
I noticed that you, on your slide, indicated that you had 772 exempt wells.
Yes, pretty interesting.
How do you propose engaging the exempt well users and quantifying their particular use?
You know, ideally, we do a bit of research here first and we figure out who those largest, I mean, they're not reporting. So who are those largest ones? We've done some analysis based on turf irrigation with some interns. So we can go back to that data. We're only proposing 20 people at a pretty cheap price because it's a lot of footwork on the ground and quite a bit of materials too. But I think to actually start putting a dent in the Take a Birdie Valley, we need to reach 100 or 200 of those exempt well owners. But if we can get 20, have the success, and start broadcasting this through the community, especially through the Take a Birdie Valley Association, which is a very effective or a very active association that gets a lot of has a lot of membership, gets a lot of people to their monthly meetings or quarterly meetings, I think they are. So I think, again, we're talking about a 50-year vision that we're trying to achieve. So I think we're starting to take baby steps right now. So that's how I see this, is we're just starting to put the pieces of the puzzle in place to see meaningful impacts down the line.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. Let's see, back to you, INAV. Let's see. Call to the council. This is, I guess, what?
Mr. Chair, before we go there, I can answer your questions from before about what is expected of members.
Go ahead.
So there are two things that we would ask members to submit to Melissa by tomorrow morning sometime, if you can this evening. Now we have about 2 hours extra in our day. So the first is, we did ask you to complete the evaluation sheets for each of the projects which you have submitted to us. I want to stress that these sheets are specifically for the strength of the application, and you can adjust them according to the presentation as well. So if you have any changes or any edits to those, please do submit them to us with the changes you have. And in addition to that, we would also like a ranking list. And this list, as we mentioned, should rank the projects that you've heard today from 1 to 9. And this is only the initial ranking list. Excuse me. This is just to start the discussion going for Wednesday. So go through the presentations and the applications and send us a list of how you would like to initially prioritize those. We will then compile the information from all the members in preparation for our Wednesday meeting, and we will average those rankings out, of course, excluding anyone who had any conflict of interest with those specific projects. And during Wednesday meeting, we will start discussing those projects one by one, and members could provide comments, questions. Again, we ask the presenters to please do attend Wednesday meeting in case members do have questions for you. I can mention a few comments or questions that Phoenix GUAC members had is if, and I believe Chairman Winnie, you had a similar question, if a project could be completed with a lower amount of funding, for example. So that's something that the applicant could provide input on. So again, two things. One is if you have any modifications to the evaluation sheet that focus specifically on the strength of the application, the forms that were submitted. And the second one is the ranking list with how you would envision funding those projects. So what would be your priority for funding those projects? Are there any questions on this?
Pat Jacobs, Mr. Chairman.
Go, Pat.
Will these presentations be available so we could, if we needed to, review them and set up the rankings?
Available? We can send them out in an email, unless it's too big. We may be able to put it on the meeting webpage. We can make them available if you want to give us a few hours to figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah, it's your pleasure, but it just would be helpful, I know, for me to be able to make sure what I'm thinking and remember is what they said.
Yes, and we definitely be able to do that. We just need to figure out the best way.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Any questions from the members about what they perceive to be the best way to prioritize this thing tomorrow after we have numerically provided a sheet that says this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Any idea about how best to deal with that? Anybody?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim.
Yeah.
Unless I'm misunderstanding your question, I thought that was the main goal of the Wednesday meeting, was to go through that compile. So.
Yes, it is. I was thinking about how we go about doing that. Do you have any suggestions about, do we start with number 9 on the list and drop people off, or do we start with the number 1 priority and discuss that among the members and then put that aside? Or anybody have any idea for what would be the most effective way of dealing with that? I'd like to hear.
Pat Jacobs, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Pat.
If they would go through with give a list of the projects and then give how many, what type of rankings they did get. So we might have one who gets a ranking of 1 and they're 9.
Yeah.
So averages wouldn't help, but I think it would help to see what kind of rankings the members gave each of the projects. So
you'd like to see each of the scoring sheets? Not
necessarily the sheets, just a list of the projects and four numbers. There are 5, whatever number we 1, 2, 3. What each of us had done.
Okay.
Anonymously, it just says 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever the rankings that project received.
Project 10 received 7 nominations for number 3 or something along that line. Okay.
Yes.
Can you do that, INAV? Is that a problem putting that out?
Not at all. That's actually how we had that. So some of you at least know that we just finished our Phoenix GUAC meeting last week, and that's exactly how we had it for Phoenix. So we do anticipate having each member's ranking for each of the projects would be listed on the screen, and then we'll also have the average of all those rankings to the side of it. So you'll definitely see the value or the ranking for each of those projects by each of the GUAC members.
I heard somebody suggest it'd probably be better if you did it anonymously, or is that a problem for you folks? In other words, you list 5, number 1 through 5 GUAC meetings and the ratings.
I would mention, I just want to mention that during the discussions, there would be an opportunity for GUAC members to talk about the projects and change their numbers.
Yep, understand.
So if it's anonymously, that may be a little difficult to want to change the numbers.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Pat.
I like anonymous because I'd have my scores. And if I wanted to change it based on the discussion, I'd have to speak up.
Yeah.
But if I didn't want to, then I'd stay with the number.
I agree with Pat.
Yeah, I think I do too. And what they're saying is for the sheet that you want to provide us for Wednesday, you would not list the GUAC members. You would just say 1 through 5, 1 and his. And then on the meeting on Wednesday, when we would have to identify ourselves to discuss this thing and change it, you would then get our rating individually. That sound right?
I agree, Pat.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll voice a few thoughts that I have on that. First, we'll have to verify with our legal team to make sure that it is possible with open meeting law. And second, I also want to point out that there are members that have conflict of interest with certain of the project, so that would be reflected in the sheet.
Right.
So it wouldn't necessarily be as anonymous as you may want it to be, if that makes sense.
Chairman?
Yeah.
I have two comments. One, I've never in all my days seen where you had to give a priority ranking and then talk some more about it and then do a different priority ranking. That to me is kind of awkward and kind of weird that you have to say what your original thing was and then you have to change it. The other thing is, those of us who are recusing from certain ones, do we do 1 through 5, or do we want do 1 through 7, or do we do 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9?
Well, that's a great question, Val. We haven't thought about that. And as for the ranking list, we don't necessarily, I guess it doesn't have to be that way. If you prefer to not have any ranking and talk about the projects one by one, and then at the end of the discussion rank them, that's totally fine. That's just something that worked for Phoenix, and they did it on the spot in the beginning of the meeting. We thought it would save us time. However, that doesn't mean that that would work for you. So if you prefer not having a ranking at all and just have the discussion on Wednesday and just go through the projects one by one and have the discussion and ask questions and comments, and at the end make your decision and have in any other form have some sort of a ranking or prioritized list, that's totally fine with us. So we're open to suggestions.
Yeah, this is Mooney. I think that it would be helpful for me to see what the other GUAC members, how they ranked. And I think it would be easy for those who have recused themselves to put an asterisk on the last 2 projects or the projects that they have to show they're not ranking them. I think we are all going to have to make a decision relative to when the final priorities are made. We'll probably have to vote on them, and so everybody will be online as far as what they voted for. But I don't think at this preliminary stage it's necessary for us to put down project 6 is the 9th on my list and get a phone call tonight from whoever 9 is saying, why are you doing that? Or whatever. So I don't know if you can, I don't. And another thing about awarding contracts, etc. I don't want to suggest this, but it's possible you could go into a closed session when you're awarding bids for contracts. That I think is one of the reasons that you can close a meeting, but I don't want to do that right now. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, John, we're not awarding the contracts. We're just giving some input into DWR.
That's right. You're right, Val. That's right.
We're cool. But I think it would be helpful because Wednesday at 1 o'clock, ANOV might be able to say, okay, well, this project was number 1 for everybody, so we're good to go on that one. And then work on down the line. She can come up with an average or show an anonymous score sheet, and that will help us move through the project.
Yeah, except you still need to talk about them, because if number 1 is my favorite project, but I only want to fund it for 80% of what it gets.
I mean, we can still talk about it even if we all voted on number 1.
Okay. Yeah, you were saying that INAV would say, we got number 1, so let's move on. And I'd suggest.
Oh, no, I misspoke.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we need to bring up?
Sure, it's a complicated process.
Yeah, especially this particular venue. Okay, so I guess this counts as a call to the council, doesn't it? I mean, is there anything else you want to offer members of the GUAC? No. Then there's a call to the public. What do we do there, INAV? Are there any chats or stuff that we need to review?
Mr. Chair, no member of the public provided any comments through the chat box.
Okay, good. So the call to the public is over. So without any objections, I'm about to do the thing unless you've got anything else to add. No? Okay, then without objection, then we'll stand at recess until 1 p.m. on Wednesday, the 17th.
Nice job. Thanks, everybody.
Be healthy and safe, folks.
See you soon.
Did we get everything, INAV?
Yeah, we got everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
All right.
Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.